Today we're talking about Terminator on 4K and specifically 4K movies in general and all of the hype surrounding them. Now this one right here is a top-notch 4K, really good image and a nice quality jump from the Blu-ray. But I think that the talk around this movie is a little overhyped. The Blu-ray was always good. When you compare the two and you watch this on a 4K, you are going to see a lot more detail, especially if you pause it. You're going to notice some, hair follicles and wrinkles and moles and things that you might not have noticed on here. But when you just press play and you watch both of them, you're going to notice that there's going to be a few scenes here that are going to be a little bit sharper or they're going to really stand out. But overall, this is a phenomenal 4K and I highly recommend picking it up. Now, this one right here is a definitive edition Blu-ray that came out in 2012, 2013. So this is what you have. This is still good. It's going to give you a good image on your television, and especially if you don't have a 4K TV, this is going to be really sharp. But if you have the 4K upgrade, go ahead and get this. It is going to be the more definitive edition, the best possible picture. And when you go through and you take the time to pause it between scenes, you're going to notice a whole lot more detail that you never had with the Blu-ray. But as we talk, it didn't blow my socks off. There's a huge quality jump from the VHS to this, and there are some movies that have that as well. I never thought that this was a huge quality jump. It is noticeable. And like I said, here you're going to be able to see hair follicles where you couldn't, or you're going to be able to see the hair follicles on this 4K that you really couldn't see it on this Blu-ray. And so there is that noticeable difference. But as you're, like I said, if you're not pausing it and you're just watching it, it's going to be there. It's going to be just a great experience overall. But before this 4K came out, I had no problem watching this Blu-ray. And even as I revisited the Blu-ray after watching this, I still was like, I see the quality difference, but it's not like leaps and bounds. And so this was an older Blu-ray that was put out. So this was a good restoration, a good upgrade in quality. But then you have this other issue of, should I upgrade my Blu-ray? There are a lot of Blu-rays that have been put out that have been done on a 2K or a 4K restoration, like Ghostbusters. That Blu-ray was done on a 2K, I think a 2K restoration. But either way, it had a 2K or 4K restoration on the film, and the quality jump from the Blu-ray to the 4K, it's there, but it's also not like leaps and bounds. And the same thing is like something like this is one of my favorites. This is The Apartment. This is a 4K scan done on the Blu-ray. And it looks great. Now, if this ever had a 4K that I was going to think about getting, the quality difference isn't going to be huge. So while there is a quality difference from this Blu-ray to the 4K, it's not, something that you're really, really missing out on unless you have a large television and you sit really, really close to it. The further back you sit, you're going to have that other experience. So my issue is, the YouTuber influencer mentality and people that overhype stuff. And sometimes they do it in the negative way and sometimes they do it in the positive way. This time, I think they did it in the positive way. But I think overall, like I said, the Blu-ray was always good. This is just a nice quality jump. And with this, talking about this specifically, why it's important is the Cameron films. So in that hype and that conversation around it is, Cameron messed up or Cameron does these AI restorations, and people really love to hate on the James Cameron movies that are being put on 4K. And I don't know if it's like some disingenuous thing to get clicks, but it seems like a lot of people have the same talking points, and it becomes very frustrating for me to have my opinion about these movies and then everybody tell me I'm wrong. It's my opinion. And so as you read the forums about these movies, people are divided. And I'm like, how are people telling me I'm wrong? And how are people divided on how this looks? And then I have to go back to when I was a kid, I worked at Circuit City and I sold big screen high definition televisions. And you learn very quickly that when you open these up, you take them out of the box. Every single one of them is going to be completely made different. You're going to have a different picture. All the settings are going to be completely different. And then each one's going to have their own bells and whistles. No Samsung is going to have the same picture quality as a Sony. You side by side, you can see in the stores just differences. Now, every single one of them is also going to have some kind of mode where you first plug it in to give you that store demo to give you the best possible picture because they want to sell more televisions. When you get home, every consumer is going to set them up completely different. So just the fact alone that you and I are not going to have the exact same television, and even if we do, I have a Sony OLED, our TVs are never going to be set up the exact same way. So when you have all your bells and whistles cranked all the way up, even on this really, really good 4K, you're going to have, you know, the waxy picture and the off image because your TV is there. And then there's more proof of that. There was this whole 20-minute video about how there is no 4K standard and no standard within the TV manufacturing, and all the different settings are ruining your TV watching experience. And I'll link that down below. It's kind of boring, but it's super informative, but it's so true. There is no standard. But what I think and what I've noticed specifically with this one is every 4K movie that I have gotten this year in 2024 is just absolutely top notch. I've had no issues with them. And it's all the ones that were made in 2024. I did buy a couple this year that were, you know, earlier 4Ks that I just didn't pull the trigger right away on. And they have some darker images, or mostly not the transfer, but it's mostly how it was like processed after the fact. Like, so there's some extra color grading that was never there on the original VHS or the Blu-ray. And so that kind of can be an issue in some of those earlier ones. But I think as a whole, the technology is moving to be better. And it's coming to maybe possibly a standard because every single one of them is just better. And you notice that same kind of trend back with the original first DVDs. They had the same issue. Some of the very early ones, when they got ported over, people complained that maybe it just looks like they just took the VHS quality copy and just slapped it on a disc. And the same thing happened with some of the DVDs when Blu-ray came out. You know, there were some Blu-rays that people complained that they were like, this feels just like they put a DVD on the Blu-ray and called it a day, and it's kind of a fuzzy picture. And so as the technology's gotten better, the DVDs look phenomenal, the Blu-rays look phenomenal, and I think now the 4Ks are moving more into that standard. So that's my opinion on the hyping around it. And I just watched a DVD last night that it looks absolutely amazing on my television. Like I said, I have a 65-inch 4K OLED television. I watched a DVD on it last night, and it looks great. Now, there are a few DVDs that I've had that are really old, and they don't look as good. So it does have to do with how the technology is being used to make these discs and do these transfers. I think that plays a huge part in it. And I think that is the same thing here. So I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the restoration on it. Now, I'm sure there was probably some DNR as well, but you can still see some film grain in this one, where people complain that you can't really see film grain in some of the other Cameron restorations, but I still think they look phenomenal because all of my settings are so low, I don't have the waxy face picture. But if you crank up all your settings and you pause it, whether to look for something good or to look for something bad, I think that's a little disingenuous because you don't watch TV that way. It would be the same thing as if you're watching a movie and you're trying to break down special effects and you pause it or slow it down. The one that comes to mind is like when they throw knives or a dart at somebody's head. Well, that whole special effect is done. The actor doesn't have anything in their hand. As they're throwing it, the prop is already in the person's head or it's already in the wall, and they just pretend to throw something, and then they pan the camera over really fast. You have that motion blur, and that right there tricks the mind into giving you what they want you to see. If you slow it down or you pause it, you'll see that the actor never had a knife. And so it's kind of the same thing where if you're pausing it, you're like, look, see, and you're zooming in on stuff. And you're like, look, see, it's really good. Or look, see, it's really bad. That's not how we watch TV. So watching these two side by side, one after another, the 4K is amazing. It's really, really sharp. There's so many images that just stood out. And this one here is still really good. And I think that's the same with most Blu-rays. So I think the technology is getting better. The 4Ks are getting a lot better. But there are so many in my collection that I would highly recommend for everybody. Now, as we talk about that, if you don't have a 4K television, clearly this doesn't matter to you. But people ask me all the time, why do you need a 4K? And it really is to just maximize your system to get the best possible picture. And if you're going to do that, this Terminator 4K is the best way to do that. But if you're not ready to upgrade on this yet, you don't want to spend the money, just wait for a sale. The Blu-ray is still pretty good. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about all this. Check out this video right here for more movie reviews. And with that, remember to watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.